Raluca, it's really nice to see you in person again. I can't believe it's been like 3 years, I think, so since I've been over here to see you. Nice to see you in person.
Nice to see you too, Rodney.
And congratulations are in order. I understand you've now assumed leadership of KPMG's EU Tech Centre. How do you enjoy your new role?
Thank you so much. It's quite recent, so I've taken over from Robert van der Jacht, who has done such a wonderful job with the EU Tech Centre for the past almost 15 years. And that is since April 1st. So it's a fairly new role. And yeah, I'm enjoying it very much so far, especially since I get to be at the heart of such an amazing network. So that's probably one of the perks of that role.
Nice. Well, congratulations and well deserved.
Thank you.
And so what's keeping you busy in that role these days?
Well, just keeping track of everything that's happening. And one of the ways we're doing that is by liaising with our colleagues from different jurisdictions in Europe, but also outside of Europe as well. And as it happens, we are here this week in Amsterdam, joined by colleagues of ours from different countries in Europe, from the US, from the Asia-Pacific region, just exchanging information, sharing insights. And it's such a valuable time spent together, trying to understand what the trends are around the globe, not just in the European Union. And we're seeing some common themes as well, which is really nice to see how things develop and how they connect all over the world.
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, it really speaks to the strength of KPMG's network that so many people are able to come here.
Exactly.
And it must make it so much easier to actually get to the bottom of things when you meet with people in person.
Definitely.
So we were talking just a little bit ago about public country-by-country reporting. And I know you've got some views on what people should be thinking about today. Tell me a bit more about your thoughts.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good example of an initiative that is not only important in the European Union, but elsewhere in the world. Because obviously in the European Union, we have a directive on public country-by-country reporting, which is already in force, and member states are required to implement it into domestic legislation by mid of this year. But in the meantime, Australia has come up with a proposal that actually goes way beyond the EU requirements. So one of the big examples of, it's important to keep track of what is happening elsewhere in the world, not just the European Union. But going back to EU public country-by-country reporting, because that will only become applicable for fiscal years starting from June 2024, so 12 months after the implementation deadline, and then the reporting will have to be done 12 months after the end of the balance sheet date. I think that some people think that that's quite far away, so they have not yet started to consider what their obligations might be under public C/C. And I'm not saying that it's a big mistake, but I do think that especially now when taxpayers are looking at their C/C data for the purposes of applying the Globe Transitional Safe Harbors, it might be a good time to start thinking about what that data might look like when they make it public. And I think one of the big considerations there is that they might want to accompany that with some sort of narrative to try to further explain the data in addition to the minimum that is required simply based on the standards set by the directive.
Well, that's really interesting, really. I can imagine that makes total sense, right? If you're going to start publicly disclosing information, you want to make sure that it actually represents your company faithfully and can't be accidentally misinterpreted in a negative way.
Precisely. And I think it's important to engage with a range of internal stakeholders. So this will not just sit with the tax team within an in-scope M&E, but it's important to discuss with their public relations people, with their investor relations people, so that everyone is comfortable with the story that is being shown through the data that will be published. So it's not just a matter of, taking your private C/C data, aggregating it and putting it on a website. It's more about creating this accurate image.
Yes. Well, that's really interesting. I guess that's why you say people should really start focusing on it now, because by the time you start to involve all those different stakeholders within the company, that just takes time to work through.
Exactly. And just because companies have been reporting to tax authorities under OECD Action 13, that doesn't necessarily mean that that data is fit for purpose. because you have a completely different audience. There are some differences in terms of the data points that need to be presented. Obviously, public C/C requires a certain degree of aggregation, so there are many considerations that need to be taken into account, in addition to monitoring how different jurisdictions in Europe are actually implementing the rules. Because as we know in the EU, although we have a directive, that doesn't mean harmonization 100%.
Well, it's certainly food for thought, and I think your advice is great, which is don't leave this till the end. Try and front-end it now while you're working on Pillar 2. Get the discussion started with all the stakeholders so that when this comes around, and 2024 is not that far off. Just to be clear, it's like tomorrow, being you're in good shape. So Raluca, fascinating. Thank you for that, and congratulations on the new.
Thank you so much.